Okay, awesome. So I wanted to focus this conversation mostly around roster. I do have questions about Pilates as well, and in your work in particular, over the years, I have drawn less and less and less lines between all of those different things. Like I don't ask as much. Like, is your session with such and such? Is it a roster session or Pilates session or personal training session? You seem to be able to flow with them in a really cool and interesting way, which I really like. But roster itself, you've already described it as um, you know, similar to Rolfing, which is the best way that I typically describe it. Most people, not most people, some people are at least a little bit familiar with that. But if somebody says, hey, I'm in pain, but I'm already seeing a chiropractor slash physical therapist slash, other corrective, person, massage therapist is a big one. How do you differentiate yourself and these sessions in particular?
I think we all have a place in the space of body work, so I certainly don't want to talk down on any of the other practices. I find them to be very helpful as part of the entire recipe. But the first question I always ask someone when they seek me out is, what have those therapies done for you thus far? And a lot of people feel like they've been spinning their wheels. So just the last woman I got to meet found me from an ad, and she's been doing physical therapy. She absolutely hates massage because it hurts so bad. And I think all of our listeners could relate. We've probably all at least had one massage in our life where we are on the table, and for whatever reason, that heavy pressure, deep tissue, whatever they're doing, it hurts. And our body's not relaxed. And we recognize that, but most of us don't say anything. And so the autonomy that comes with Rossiter, the flexibility, the hope that somebody gets, the ability to control the session, even though I'm the one stepping on you, you're the boss. And I'd say that every hour. You're the person who needs to communicate with me on the amount of pressure I give you, because the idea is not to just beat you up. We're not trying to leave you bruised and battered. We are really trying to get your nervous system to go more parasympathetic, which is rest, digest, and that's where healing happens. If your body's fighting it, if you're gritting your teeth, if you're just suffering through it, you're probably going to feel sore. And some people are convinced that that's what's making them feel better, or that's what the benefit is of them going. But I truly believe that the body needs to feel safe. Most of the time, physical pain, maybe it's manifesting because of a source of mental or emotional trauma. Maybe it's, you literally got hit by a car. But either way, the body doesn't know how to decipher that. Trauma is trauma, and it needs to feel safe in order to feel like it can unwind and unravel and move and change. So I usually ask people what they've been getting out of those therapies first, so I kind of know a little bit more about how they're going to respond to the work. I make sure that they understand that their role is to be a master communicator, because I'm a good Rossiter practitioner, but I'm a terrible mind reader. So I want that chatting throughout the session. As far as testing pain spots, the intention is not to come in and see me for a good time. We are trying to go straight for the source of pain, but it's not always where you think it's coming from. So the last woman I got to work with, she's had hip replacements and she's been struggling with range of motion in her knee. Just watching her get out of her car was, oh, it was a struggle for me. So we were chatting as we walk into the house, and what I'm hearing from her is that, PT went straight to strengthening exercises. So if we think about taking a rubber band, and that's just a very simple way of thinking about a tensegrity model. If you pull that rubber band apart at both sides, that rubber band's really taut. And then what we know about strength training is, while it has all of the positive beneficial effects, it is still contracting. So we're expecting something that's tense to become tighter. And no wonder people leave with pain, and they're spinning their wheels, and they're doing more sessions and more sessions. So the way I try to explain to them is, we need to take that knot, we need to take that fascial adhesion or whatever is going on in their physical system, and we need to bring that to more of a baseline homeostatic level in order for the body to start to feel safe enough to unravel, unwind. And then after that, when we're consistently in a space where we have more internal space, that's the time that we want to start to learn how to stabilize and strengthen.
Gotcha. Okay, that's very interesting. I like how you said in the beginning of that explanation, like, we don't want to trash other modalities and say that, if you choose to do massage therapy or physical therapy or whatever, they're all tools, right? They can definitely help. I would say in my experience, for every time I got a massage, like, whether or not it felt good while I was doing it, I always felt worse the next day. Like, it never especially long term, really helped any of the issues I was ever having, and I always kind of felt worse afterwards. Is that something you hear pretty frequently?
Yeah, and it's like I can see it in my brain. It's a tougher thing to explain to someone, but again, just taking that tensegrity model, a lot of people relate to like if we had a shoelace that's open on each end and you tie that shoelace in a nice tight knot in the middle, stretching, I mean, yoga in some cases, even when we haven't done soft tissue release, the body needs pressure. It needs pressure in order to unwind. So it's like taking that shoelace and pulling it from both ends, expecting the knot to get looser. We actually need to get into that knot. We need to figure out its trigger points, its connections. It might be a knee that's bugging, but the body does an amazing job of compensating so that you keep moving until it just cannot do it anymore. And pain is not a bad thing, it's information. And we have that initial pain pop up, whether it's a twinge when we get out of the chair or when we're walking, or it's a little harder to breathe, or it's soreness that just won't go away. And we ignore it. And then the body's like, okay, so we're just going to start to tighten somewhere else in another fascial sling in order to help this person to keep doing what they're doing because they're obviously not listening. It's not stopping. And then it snowballs to a bigger problem. So a lot of times when people come to see me, I'm not the first person that they've seen. They've already done the standard massage, chiropractic, physical therapy, the stuff that's been required by their insurance, and they're frustrated. So I have a big job cut out for me at that point because it might have started at the knee, but now what's overshadowing everything is the opposite side shoulder. And so we have to figure out how to reverse engineer how did this person get into pain. And so we're testing different spots. We're seeing what kinds of releases are helping. And oftentimes it has nothing to do with what the area that they're coming in to see me for.
Yeah, okay. I want to talk about that specifically. But before we do, when you said pressure and pressure points, the first thing my mind went to are tools like foam rollers or lacrosse balls, or even like we've seen in the last like 5, 10 years, the rise of the guns that people kind of use on their body. How do you think about those as tools? Do you think they can be helpful, or are they in some way kind of like noise or distraction in a way?
I think those definitely have a place if they're used appropriately. I always tell people some amount of pressure is better than nothing. It's definitely, you're going to get a lot more out of it than just stretching alone. However, you need a destination for that tissue to go. So I think a lot of people who do self myofascial release, one, relating it back to what I said about the trauma state and feeling safe, if a massage gun is beating the crap out of your IT band and you're tensed against it and you're holding your breath and you're just doing what your coach told you to do, that's not really going to make a long-term change. It's going to hurt like hell when you're doing it. You may feel like you're doing something positive, but it's the same idea as a deep tissue massage. So while it's still breaking things up, while lymph is being able to move more freely, while we're creating a stimulus in blood flow and oxygen exchange, I think the gold standard is a pin and stretch. So for example, when it comes to the iliotibial band, which is a really common area that people will foam roll and foam roll and foam roll, it doesn't seem to change. So what I coach my clients to do in between our sessions to maintain some level of space is to find the pain spot with an appropriate density foam roller, which is usually a lot softer than you typically find in a gym or where you want to go. And you find that pain spot and you get into a position where you're kind of laying on your side with one leg off the roller and you hold and you breathe. And that you might be there for 3 minutes, you might be there for 5 minutes, you might not get any amount of moving or stretching. You are holding and waiting for it to feel like it's desensitizing. After science says after about 2 minutes minimum, that's when the body starts to produce a chemical that I referred to earlier called hyaluronic acid. We've seen this in a lot of popular beauty and cosmetic products, but it's something that intrinsically is developed by the body, acting as oil between the fascial layer and the muscle. And there's not just a clear cut separation like two layers stacked on top of each other. Fascia is really interesting. In a live body, it could not be taken out. You can't extract it. It is within the muscle. It starts inside of the bone and it's fluid. So it's always changing, and we need to allow heat and pressure at a certain amount of time to have that hyaluronin become more present in the body in order for things to start to slip and slide and glide better. So
Okay.
I think they're great tools. They just need to, it's user error typically.
Interesting. And then a really common one that I get all the time, you must get this all the time, is stretching. I'm not very flexible, so I need to have better flexibility and I need better stretching. What are some techniques? Things like that. How do you respond to that typically?
Well, I think people need to understand that there is a difference between plasticity and elasticity. And when you think you want plasticity, what you actually are wanting is elastic recoil. We need that rebound effect. We need that glide. We need that slack in our tissues in order for your body to become flexible. Because if you want your bones to change placement, we need the glue that holds the bones together to be free.